Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. How you feeling, Cavs fans? I feel like the last couple of days we were getting y'all all sized up. They was going to get Jimmy Butler. Maybe there was a chance for Paul George because you think Paul George probably needs to move before the draft. Got you guys all charged up about the possibility of the Cavaliers making one of those big moves that you feel like they need to make in order to compete with the Golden State Warriors. I think we spent all this time getting y'all jazzed up about that. And a big part of why we wound up getting y'all jazzed up about that was we were thinking that you need to go ahead and make these moves and make it happen because you're basically only guaranteed 1 year of LeBron James, and it's starting to feel like LeBron James is going to chuck the deuce and leave. So we got you all excited about all the things that might happen coming up to the NBA draft. And then Jimmy Butler is like, nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm straight. I don't really want to do that. We are getting the whispers that Jimmy Butler does not wish to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Some are even whispering that Jimmy Butler has gone. We are not reporting this. Mark Stein said this is not happening, but some are whispering. And Jimmy Butler hollered at some of the Cavs, and the Cavs like, nah, bro, you don't want to be no part of this. Now, I am inclined to believe that story is not true. And here's why I'm inclined to believe that story is not true. I'm inclined to believe that story is not true because it's not that miserable for the Cavs, right? Like, this doesn't sound like one of those situations. If that was the case, like, everybody is officially trying to get out of there themselves at that moment. Reality is the Cavs are a bunch of really competitive basketball players who just lost to the Warriors who have to look around and ask themselves, yo, I think we could use a guy like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler will probably make us better. So you telling me that the dudes on the Cavs who are going to be there next year regardless are like, nah, we don't want to get closer to a championship, Jimmy. Don't come here. Why? Because they don't want Jimmy to get okey-doked. You think they worried about Jimmy getting okey-doke? Do you even think they see that as being an okey-doke? They're looking at Jimmy like, yeah, LeBron might leave, but we still here, baby. Right. I mean, I'm not saying I'm LeBron, but all I need is, an expanded role. At the current moment, I am the victim of what? Politics. The other reason I'm inclined not to believe the story that Jimmy Butler called the Cavs, and the Cavs are like, nah, bro, you don't want no parts of this. If you're Jimmy Butler, why would you call the Cavs about that? I mean, okay. Is the Cavs a code word? Because to me, I feel like you don't need to call the Cavs. I feel like you need to call a Cav, the Cav, right? And perhaps that's what you mean by the Cavs, because when you say the Cavs, you really mean the Cav, the one Cav. He is the Cavs. And I know this. I feel like we know enough about LeBron James and how he handles his business over the course of years to know this. Call LeBron if you want to, think you about to get some information about where he going to sign as a free agent. You let me know how that goes. LeBron ain't telling you nothing. Oh, boy said he can't imagine what it's like to be married to LeBron. You catch LeBron dead in the story, and all he going to do is walk to the other room. That's it. LeBron ain't telling you nothing, man. Probably telling you, hey, Jimmy, hey, man, I'm thinking about coming down to Cleveland, man. How long you staying? I mean, I got a contract through 2018. Like, that's it. I mean, so you gonna wait? How long you gonna play here? I mean, you can look at my contract on the internet, baby. Ain't really nothing I can tell you that's not publicly available information. I don't know.
Wish I can tell you more, but
yeah, I mean, who am I to try to predict the future? Right, like who am I to tell you those sorts of things? Jimmy Butler, like, I ain't spending 1 year in Cleveland longer than I have to. No. I'm not doing this. We had my man Vinny Goodwill of Comcast Sports Chicago on yesterday, and Vinny said one thing about it is Jimmy likes being the man in Chicago. Like, there's a certain value that comes to him from being the man in Chicago that he's not just going to give away that quick. Also, Jimmy Butler's not quite at that point in his career where you go ring chasing. Like he's not there. Now, we're talking about Jimmy in a couple of years after he's played through the first extension. Then we're probably talking about something different. But as of right now, like, I don't feel like Jimmy got to hit the gas on the clock, right? Like, I don't think that he's at that place in his career where that's the sort of thing that he has to do. I do have to wonder this, though, because Vinny also reported that the Celtics turned down an offer of Jimmy Butler for the number 3 pick. What in the world do the Celtics think they're going to get with the number 3 pick? Like, seriously, like what do they think they're getting? I just can't imagine looking at the number 3 pick. You know how lucky you'll be if the player that you get with the number 3 pick eventually turns into Jimmy Butler? And if he eventually turns into Jimmy Butler, what are we talking about? 4 or 5 years down the line, that maybe this dude turns into Jimmy Butler, and you're going to hold on to that lottery ticket instead of taking a chance to have Jimmy Butler right now? Like, look, think about this for the Celtics. If the LeBron stories, the stories about LeBron getting out of here at the end of 2018 are legit, like if you think LeBron's going to leave at the end of 2018, your window's now, right? Like we keep talking about, well, you guys just got to wait for LeBron to get out of town. Hey, man, they out here talking about LeBron going to the West. The West, like your chance is probably right here. And it's really cool to have this idea that you're going to have these cats that you can keep down the line. But you still got to pick from next year, right? So you still got a chance to, like, fortify you don't take Jimmy Butler at this very moment? Like Jimmy Butler basically going into prime? Jimmy Butler, who, for your fan base that sees itself as a bit of a hard-scrabble bunch, Jimmy Butler's perfect for that. Like, I don't know if Jimmy Butler has any desire to go play in Boston, but the type of player that he is, he got fan favorite written all over him. I mean, yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying, he got that game. Fan favorite. He's got it. So I don't know what Danny Ainge's over there talking about. I do not at all. By the way, have you seen this, Shannon, where Danny Ainge's son is running for Congress in Utah?
Oh, is he?
So you understand the dilemma there, right? Word on the street is that the Celtics would like to sign Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward currently plays for the Utah Jazz, and the people of Utah would probably prefer that Gordon Hayward stay in Utah.
Nothing personal.
Your daddy about to lose an election for you. Like, that's what I just love the thought of. Your daddy go blow this election for you out here trying to win basketball games.
Nothing personal.
Nope.
Just business.
Just had to be done. By the way, are we sure that Gordon Hayward is going to Boston?
Like we're saying is as it's some sort of foregone conclusion already, but it's not.
There's
a shot he can go back to Utah, right? Because you talking off from the most money, right?
Or there's a shot. He might go to Miami, right? Like I don't have any idea. Like I'm not on that inside circle or that place in the circle where people can really have that like sort of discussion, right? About like why it is that he's going to Boston or whatever. And I don't want to talk about why it is some of y'all think he's going to Boston because y'all gonna get mad at me, right? But Shannon, are we not assuming? I feel like we're assuming.
It just feels like a good fit.
You know what I'm saying?
They can use another scorer.
Yep, we are assuming. Like, that's all. But my favorite part of it is, though, people believing that Gordon Hayward is enough to put him over the top. We just watched Joe Johnson take the big shots for that team in the postseason. Go ahead. I did. He's a very good player, though. I don't want to deny that. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone numbers. Hit the phone. Talk to Slim in D.C. Slim, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, what's up, dog? You my man. Look, I got a real question for you. Now, is it that the world is not smart and only ESPN analysts are smart? Because just like you say, you're assuming, right? Why nobody assume with other teams? Why is it the conversation just about LeBron? Because I'm starting to think, analytics is becoming too important in basketball. It's like, I'm not getting it. I mean, it's not even fun to listen to radio no more because if I turn the radio in at 8, I hear LeBron, same trade. Turn on another time, you get the same thing, get your show, and I just hear you repeat the same thing. Can we get another assumption? Like, what's wrong with Jimmy Butler winding up with the Lakers? I mean, do they have a chance to win the championship if Jimmy Butler and Paul George go? Does it have to be LeBron?
But, man, the Lakers aren't the ones who called the Bulls about Jimmy Butler. The Cavs were. What you want me to do, bruh?
Well, see, I understand. Look, I get it.
I've been talking about the Lakers, though. We've been talking about the Lakers. We've been doing that. The problem is, dog, it's LeBron. Like, the world revolves around LeBron. You denying that?
Yeah, I'm denying that because the world does not revolve around LeBron. I think, LeBron gets a little bit too much credit. We still have an NBA, Bomani. We still have good players in the league.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Butler.
But does that save the NBA? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what is it that everybody just want LeBron to just be the greatest? What are we getting at? It's because I really think this is the reason why a lot of people don't watch basketball no more.
No. That's not the reason that whole lot of people don't watch basketball. There's a different reason a whole lot of people don't watch basketball. I just want you to tell me what any of this had to do with analytics. I'm trying to ride with you, Slim, but it took us a whole lot of places.
Well, look, analytics, basically, we keep screaming numbers, okay? So, I mean, do we look at play? I understand it's like at the end of the finals. We talk more about LeBron's triple-double than the actual team who beat him. Instead of saying something like Golden State played better, we say, oh, no, LeBron ain't had no help. He had a triple-double. He needs more help. Why we don't use words like that team is better and just stop there and speak on the team that's better?
But see, that's
Golden
the thing.
State won the championship, but y'all haven't been talking about them.
But that's the thing, though. Everybody is saying that Golden State is better. As a result, people are trying to get more and better players because Golden State is better. Ain't but so many ways we can say Golden State better than y'all. There's a lot of different ways that we can say, here's how y'all can catch up to Golden State. But, Slim, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that circuitous ride through your basketball mind. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, Dwight Howard got traded to the Hornets, which allowed you guys to do your favorite thing, bash Dwight Howard and put me in the unfortunate position of having to be that guy. What guy? I'll tell you which one on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 8.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Jayson Tatum, last of Duke University, will join us next segment. Jayson Tatum will join us at 4:30 Eastern. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. And hey, stop Straight Talk. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We're just talking about Jimmy Butler and the idea that the Celtics wouldn't trade the number 3 pick to get Jimmy Butler. Let's hit the phones to talk to Michael from Texas. Michael, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bomani, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Hey, I just wanted to start out saying you're by far my favorite personality on ESPN, so keep doing what you're doing, brother. Yeah. So my question about the Celtics, man, is everyone's pretty much saying Gordon Hayward's just about a lock, and Blake Griffin, that's kind of been coming up. They both play small forward, so I'm assuming it's one or the other. I just want to know what you thought the better fit was. I know we kind of struggle rebounding, so I didn't know if it's just better to try to keep Al Horford at the 4 and go try to find a center, or what are your thoughts on where we're at?
Well, I appreciate the question. I think of Blake Griffin more as a power forward than I think of him as a small forward. The thing, though, about Blake Griffin at power forward is Al Horford does not like playing center. Al Horford keeps playing center, right? He never wants to play center. He stays wide up in his places where he plays center. Right? That's the one thought I guess you would have. So to me, I think Horford's more effective as a power forward. You'd be better if you could get a center, but getting a center ain't that easy. They just don't make that many of them. All right, 888-729-3776. Let's talk to Dave in Canada. Dave, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, how you doing, Bomani?
Doing all right.
Hey, I just wanted to, talk about the Celtics and Butler. And I think what it's all about, Danny Ainge doesn't want to just trade the number 3 pick. Because if he does, he adds $18 million salary. And he wants to go after Hayward or Griffin. And if he trades for Butler without adding players and trading salary off, he doesn't have enough salary cap to go get the guys he really wants. And I think that's what it's all about.
Well, I think there's something, too, that I appreciate the call. And I would say that if you don't get Jimmy Butler because you want to give that money to Gordon Hayward, hustling backwards. There's definite hustling backwards that is taking place under that scenario. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So Dwight Howard got traded for a sack of balls. Basically, there's a bag of basketballs and maybe a player to be named later. Well, they traded Dwight and a draft pick for Miles Plumlee and a draft pick.
Miles Plumlee, Marco Bellinelli, and the 41st pick in the draft.
Okay, so at least it was multiple players, right? At least it was multiple players. And, of course, when this happens, everybody and their mom then goes to, oh, my gosh, Dwight Howard has fallen off so far. And I do think none of us would have expected 5 years ago that you would be in a scenario you'd be trading. If you were going to do a trade with Dwight Howard involving a Plumlee, at least it would be Mason. Right? That's what you would think. At least it would be Mason. No. It's Miles. The first one. Yeah. And so all y'all Dwight Howard jokes come and everything else. Now, Dwight was not really good last year with the Hawks. The Hawks were better with Dwight off the floor. I don't think that means that Dwight was bad. Like, Dwight did seem to be a bad fit on that team. I mean, I looked at the Basketball Reference and checked the page. Like, I didn't feel like his numbers, like his offensive and defensive rating were bad. Like, I didn't feel like that. He also gave you about 13 boards a game, which is, pretty high up there in the NBA. He was not a good offensive player for them, though, right? And so some people have made the argument that what the issue was that they did not have enough shooting. Like, if you're going to have Dwight there, you got to have more shooting to give him a little more room or everything else. I just think that Dwight's in this odd place where we evaluate Dwight not for what he was, but for what he wasn't. Not for what he is, but for what he is not. And it just doesn't really feel fair to the dude. The problem is you then leave me out here as being the person that's got to ride for Dwight Howard. And nobody wants to be the person that's out here riding for Dwight Howard, and you know why. Because Dwight stay out here acting like a sucker. I mean, he does it. He has done quite a few suckerific things. And I'll tell you, the day I realized that Dwight was never going to figure out what it was, I'll start by giving you the basis of comparison, which is LeBron James. Now, after LeBron left Cleveland, after the decision, after they melted down in the playoffs, everything else, he got to Miami. You notice what slowed down when he got to Miami? You remember when LeBron and the dudes on the bench used to do that funny stuff where they were acting like they were posing for pictures and stuff like that? You remember that? LeBron looked up after the decision and was like, okay, this stuff isn't going to work anymore. I got to let this go. Like, people are not riding with me behaving like this in this way anymore. I think it was the All-Star game in Houston in 2013, right? So this is the year after the whole Stan Van Gundy thing and everything else. And I saw Dwight out there, and he's on the floor, and he's trying to do all, like, the goofy, big old kid type stuff in order to get the affection of the fans. And they're not giving it to him, right? Like, he looked around and didn't realize, yo, you got to come up with a new steez. And at no point did he ever come up with a new steez. So everybody's whole thing about him is he's a big old child and da-da-da and everything else, which I think is interesting considering that we're not the ones that have to put up with him. Like, people just have this crazy hostility toward Dwight. And when you go back and look at the numbers and you go back and look at, like, how he performed in the postseason for his career, before his back went out, man, Dwight was the dude. Then his back went out, and quite honestly, he gave you quite a bit even after his back went out. Right? Like, this is one of those dudes that has, like, consistently in his career raised his level of play once the playoffs came around. He just really, really, really rubs people the wrong way. And now we are left with the hilarious proposition of Dwight Howard playing for a team that is owned by Michael Jordan. And I just want to know what Mike says about Dwight when Dwight ain't around. And I have a feeling that Dwight is going to find out what Mike says about Dwight when he's not around. Because Mike strikes me as the type who says what he says when you're not around, also when you are around.
I said what I said.
Now, you know what I said? I don't even give you I said what I said. He's going to be like, damn, Mike, you're going to say that right in my face. I'm going to say it when you leave, too. Then what? Yeah. Like the uncensored Michael Jordan, what do you think about old goofy Dwight Howard? How much money would you pay for that, right? But, yeah, y'all would love Mike for that. Y'all hate Dwight. Kobe's big part of the reason why y'all hate Dwight. The thing with Sands, big part of why y'all hate Dwight. We're going to put this on the poll. Is Dwight Howard a Hall of Famer? When we tell y'all the results, you're going to see how much people hate Dwight Howard. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk to Jayson Tatum, talk to him about the draft process and where you might want to land on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Last year around this time, he's one of the top recruits in the nation. Now we're looking at him as probably being one of the top draft picks in the 2017 NBA draft, which is tomorrow night. His name is Jayson Tatum. So, Jayson, how's the whole experience been for you?
It's been great. It's been a long experience, and just looking forward to tomorrow night.
What happened? Is there anything about this process that you did not expect with the workouts and everything else?
Just how mentally stressful it can be. The part about not knowing just not knowing where you're going to go. It's not like college or high school where you get to choose. You're just sitting and waiting until tomorrow night until your name's called. So that's the most stressful part.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing you point out there, that with college, you kind of have all the power as the recruit. You get to decide where you're going. With the draft, they get to decide where you're going. So what is your outlook when you go in to meet a new team? Like, what's your thought process on how you want to handle it?
I mean, first of all, you're just grateful that you get that opportunity, and, you just try to do your best and the workout, and then you talk and sit down with them and have lunch or dinner or whatever it is, and just wish for the best. That's all you can do because, I mean, they're not going to tell you that, you're the one until probably right before the draft.
All right, we are talking to Jayson Tatum on the right time. So for you, how was the year in college?
It was great. I enjoyed my time in college. We had ups and downs with our year, especially at Duke. But, we had a successful year and great teammates and great coaching staff, and I had a great year.
Now, was that the first time you had to deal with an injury as serious as what you dealt with your foot?
Yes. That's the first time I've ever missed games in my career, especially due to injury. And it was tough. It was physically tough and mentally tough because I was just so eager to get out there and, show the world what I could do. And, I just had to sit and watch for 6 weeks.
All right, we were talking to Jayson Tatum on the right time. Now, one thing about being mentally tough is dealing with the coaches like Mike Krzyzewski. Now, what is the angriest that you ever made Mike Krzyzewski?
It's a couple times. Probably, it was one day. It was unexpected. It was just after we played. It was one ACC game we played, and we won. And the next day, everything was okay. But we had film, and the entire film session was about me. And he got on me for about 90 minutes on just, how I wasn't being aggressive and, how we weren't going to get better if I wasn't more vocal and more active on the floor. And it was just because it just caught me off guard because we just won the day before.
Well, how did you handle that? Because I imagine being a young player and being as good as you had been before, there aren't too many film sessions that go like that.
Yes, it's tough, at first, but, Coach K always says, just be worried when I stop yelling at you or when I stop trying to correct you. He's only doing it because he cares. And, when you look at it from that point, then, it really helps out.
All right, we are talking to Jayson Tatum on the right time. Now, you talked about the stress of not being really in control of what happens in this situation. How much attention are you paying to the trades and everything going on with, like, prospective free agency?
You got to pay attention to it because, it affects you or possibly could. So, everybody's aware of what's going on around NBA right now.
All right, we are talking to Jayson Tatum on the right time. Now, is there any player that you've kind of patterned your game after?
Yes, there's different, players I try to steal things from. Right now, it would be Paul George. That's the one person in the NBA that I try to implement, from his game and try to model mine after.
Well, what about his game do you like?
I just love his versatility, on both ends of the floor and just offensively how skilled and gifted he is at, 6'9" and a half and his weight and just how he can create his own shot whenever he wants.
All right, we are talking to Jayson Tatum on the right time. Now, we saw that you told the USA Today that you'd like to start a program to give housing and utilities for hardworking single mothers. So what was your relationship like with your mother growing up?
I had the best, relationship with my mom. She had me when she was 19, and, it's just been, that's what I lived with my entire life. And, we had some tough times, and, I did everything with my mom. And, we struggled a little bit, growing up. And, just finally, happy that tomorrow we can, change all of that. And, we're thinking about starting this program where, we can just be a blessing to some, another family, up and coming that, a single mother who has a child and, who's working at school, but just, just to pay for utilities and bills so they know that's one, less thing they have to worry about while they're, trying to get on their feet.
Now, how hard was it for the both of you that year away from home?
It was tough, but, my mom, she made it work like she always does. And, she came to every game and came to visit and check up on me every weekend.
All right, we are talking to Jayson Tatum on the right time. Now, we've heard a lot about your name being associated with the Boston Celtics. How did your workout go with them?
I had a great workout. I had a great time up there, meeting with Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens and just with the staff and, my workout and seeing the facilities. I really enjoyed myself.
Well, is it intimidating, the thought that you'd be going to a team that's already ready to compete for a championship where there's not as much time to kind of work your way into the system?
Maybe, I guess. I'm not really sure because this is, it's my first time going through this, and I'm not sure how how all of this is going to work. I'm sure, going into the NBA is tough in general in the transition itself, but I guess, it would make sense that it'd be even tougher just going to a team that's already ready, to compete for a championship.
Now, when these teams were talking to you, if they were to ask you, like, what's the one thing that Jayson Tatum knows that he can bring to help an NBA team right away, what would you say that thing would be?
Scoring and versatility.
Now, the thing about versatility that's interesting in making that transition is that, I think Brad Stevens said that he could see you guarding positions 1 through 4. Are you ready to guard 1 through 4 in the NBA?
Yeah, you don't have a choice, or you don't want to play.
I think that's pretty simple. That is Jayson Tatum. Check him out. We will see him go early tomorrow night in the NBA draft. Good luck to you, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, now 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. I have to say this about Tatum. I watched him play, right? Like I saw him play at Duke, because Duke's one of the teams that's on TV enough where I don't watch as much college basketball as I used to, but I seen him play. Shannon, did you realize he was 6'8"?
No, I didn't, not at all. And he's a smooth 6'8", too.
That's what I'm saying. I looked that up yesterday. I was like, what you mean he's 6'8"? I saw him dribble the ball down the floor. 6'8".
I guess that's one of the things he talks about with the versatility. A 6'8" guy who can handle the ball.
But see, this is where this gets to be interesting. I'm going to throw a name out there for you that you probably ain't thought about in forever. You remember Julian Wright?
Kansas.
Julian Wright played from Kansas, right? And the thing about Julian Wright at Kansas was, at Kansas, Julian Wright could play and guard 1 through 4. In the pros, he was a 3. Like, that was it. He was a 3. But if Tatum could come out here and guard that range of positions, because that's what I think everybody needs, is a guy who can guard that full range of positions. That's why Draymond Green makes the Warriors go in that way, is that he can guard guys 1 through 5. And see, the thing with Draymond is his ability to guard guys 1 through 5 then makes you ignore the fact that he's not that tall. He's got a crazy wingspan, but he's not that tall, right? But if you actually are tall, like you really are 6'8", and you out here talking about you can guard 1 through 4, like that's Shawn Marion type stuff there. Like that could be an incredible pickup for the Celtics if he can do those things. He just got to start guarding NBA players right away, which is, that's a lot. Like one thing I think we forget about with the draft that's different from when most of us were growing up. Them dudes that were coming out of the draft when we was growing up were like 22, 21 years old, right? Like they were ready. These dudes are 19. Right. Like think about this. Like Kevin Durant was really good as a rookie, but imagine Kevin Durant as a 22-year-old rookie. Right? Like you look at the numbers that guys put up as rookies back in the day. They're so much different, and it's just because they were older, right? That being said, Jayson Tatum is like NBA body, got you. Ready, right here. So, hey, man, we'll see how that goes. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com today. Now, that's Progressive. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we put up on our poll whether or not Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer. Wait till you hear this update. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Jayson Tatum for joining us last segment. Markelle Fultz will join us next segment, followed by Josh Jackson. We're doing all the draft stuff here for you. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So a little bit earlier in the show, we were talking about Dwight Howard. Dwight got traded to the Hornets. That meant all the Dwight Howard jokes come. And by the way, you're going to get the jokes when you send a tweet that's like, all right, fans, tell me about these NBA trades. And then 5 minutes later, you get traded. Like, did he know that he had gotten traded when we found out that he got traded? Because the timing of that's a lot. Like, did he hit send, and then immediately after he had send, he got the phone call, and then he's like, oh, man, hopefully that didn't send because the phone, nope, it already sent. Yep.
Maybe if I put it in airplane mode, it won't go all the way through.
No, they got you. There's right there. Then Dwight is headed to Charlotte, like just that fast. Now, the Hawks seem to be tearing this whole thing down, right? Like, they traded Korver last year. Do you think Paul Millsap is going back there? Because it doesn't seem to me like Paul Millsap is going to come back. The Hawks got to the conference finals. That's about as good as it was going to get with that team. Apparently, they're trying to send the DAP master up out of there, see if somebody wants to get some of that $70 million DAP. Right? He's on the road. Like, they seem to be tearing the whole thing down, although I've seen that they say for cap reasons, they might have been better off releasing Dwight as opposed to the trade that they make. Because they brought back Miles Plumlee, whose contract is longer. And who's Miles Plumlee? by the way. Still in the league, Miles Plumlee. Yeah.
All right, so we had the Twitter poll asking the question on ESPN Radio's Twitter account, is Dwight Howard a Hall of Famer? And
What are the results looking like?
So far, 61% of the votes say no.
61 says no. How many times did he win Defensive Player of the Year? Is it 3 or 4? How many times did he win the rebounding title? Is it 4 or 5? He's gotten the team to the NBA Finals. He is, without question, the best big man of his generation. People just really dislike him, and there's an irony to it because he's in that Alex Rodriguez category of dudes who has become roundly disliked largely because he tried so hard to get people to like him, right? Like, people don't really have – and it's wild, though, with sports fans because we do want dudes to do things to make us like them. And then when you go a little too far in on it like Dwight, then we get on you because you've done so much to make – it's like when I hear people say what their issues are with Dwight, I'm just sitting there like, that's not true. Like, that isn't – no, that is simply factually incorrect. So as of yet, on our poll at the Twitter account for ESPN Radio, that's at ESPN Radio, 61% say Dwight Howard is not a Hall of Famer. You ever gone to Basketball Reference and they got all the Hall of Fame probability predictors? You know what they say about Dwight Howard in terms of whether or not he'll be a Hall of Famer, what the probability is that he'll be a Hall of Famer? 100%. 100%. So I had somebody hit me earlier today about that, whether Dwight's a Hall of Famer. And they're like, okay, well, if Dwight's a Hall of Famer, do you think Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer? Yes, and I think Dwight was a better player than Ben Wallace. But, yeah, I think, like, every argument that people come to me about why Dwight is not a Hall of Famer, I'm like, do you ever actually watch any basketball, right? Dwight's back went out. It hasn't been the same since his back went out. Kobe told y'all that Dwight was soft while he was up there leading the league in rebounds or just about with a torn labrum. But y'all let Kobe tell y'all that Dwight was soft. Had somebody hit me today. He couldn't figure out how to play with Kobe or James Harden. Just last year, y'all were talking about how hard it must be to play with James Harden. The only person that didn't get cut any slack for that was Dwight. He was the only one. Dwight left L.A., right? They're like, well, you know, nobody ever leaves L.A. It is unquestionably true that Dwight made the right decision leaving L.A. Why? Because spending 2 years with the carcass of Kobe Bryant wasn't really going to be the business, right? I had somebody somebody hit me up and was like, well, the Rockets weren't much better with Dwight than the Lakers were without him. The Rockets went to the conference finals. The Lakers have been one of the worst teams in the league for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, those are the lengths that people are willing to go to try to dog Dwight at this point. And maybe the best thing for him actually is going to Charlotte. You know why? Because we ain't going to pay no attention. Dwight can go to Charlotte and put up a triple-double every game. I'll have no idea. None.
I don't know if this will go for Charlotte because we don't have too many high expectations for them, but can you still win if Dwight is one of your top, say, 3 players?
3? Maybe if he's the third. I mean, he is what he's going to be, right? He's going to give you boards. He's going to be a good defensive player. Now, where it goes offensively becomes its own thing. The problem is Dwight wants to be thought about on offense, and the Rockets were like, no, we're not going to do that. And then the Hawks were like, nah, we're not going to do that. You got at least, one thing I thought we all do about basketball, if you're going to ask the big man to do all that stuff on defense, you got to at least let him touch you. Right? You got to at least let him get a feel, right? Nope. That's not what people are trying to hear.
The topic of likability when it comes to Dwight, why is it that Shaq was able to get a pass? You know, as a guy who likes to clown around and joke, why was Shaq able to get a pass, but Dwight never could?
But I think, like, Shaq joked around, but it never felt like Shaq wasn't a grown man, right? Like, I think people feel like Dwight is a man-child. And, by the way, Shaq was a lot better, which is not an insult to Dwight Howard. Like, being as good as Shaq is, I mean, there have been very few who could do that. But I think that Shaq gave that put the team on my back sort of image that you didn't really get from Dwight. Like, you just got Dwight like, hey, man, I just want to come out here and have a good time and play basketball. And that doesn't offend me. Like, that really, really offends people. Like, for me, it's just like, okay, cool, that's how that cat kicks it. Nah, man, y'all take that hard. Like, the very idea that somebody would have the all-damn audacity to be like, actually, I want to play basketball and smile. Nope. Y'all don't want any parts of that. So, yeah, the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time All-Defensive First Team, 5-time Rebounding Leader, 2-time blocks, 17.5, 12.7 for his career, 8 All-Star teams, and 61% of people on our poll at last check said that Dwight is not a Hall of Famer. Hating. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the projected number one pick of the NBA draft, Markelle Fultz, on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.